Hello there, and welcome to the training from me, Alison Lager, for Lager Counseling Services in regard to eating disorders. What I want to begin with is a very simple principle, and you'll be able to read what I'm saying here, but also remember a guiding foundational principle to all of the work that we do with eating disorders. We will not focus at all on the factor in healing that most of the world is focused on. We will not be focusing on the DSM or the diagnoses that continue to change over the years. There's so many of them that are changing, and we want to make sure we don't focus on that. We will be focusing on the experience of the sufferer, meaning the person who has this eating problem, either not eating, overeating, constantly body checking, binging, purging, throwing up, exercise bulimia, any of the factors that this human being is experiencing. And we are going to focus primarily on their experience and how to ensure a full and thorough recovery. Often when someone's diagnosed with an eating disorder, the thing that happens is most medical professionals, the parents, and everyone involved tend to focus on whether how much the sufferer is eating and or not eating, and their primary goal is to either lessen the amount of food they eat or increase the amount of food they eat, increase their weight or lower their weight. And that becomes the overarching goal in the recovery. When we, as clinicians at Lager Counseling Services, we will definitely address medical safety because someone with an eating disorder does have, statistically, they can be life-threatening. So we want to make sure we create a sense of comfort to parents and to professionals and to the actual person who has an eating disorder, while at the same time, we do not allow urgency to override a full and healthful recovery. We as clinicians here, we will focus on medical safety while at the same time diving much deeper so we can, in order to heal, to offer healing the root of the problem and not just the behavior. If you guys are new here, or if you're a seasoned Lager Counseling Services professional, I really want to remind you or encourage you that we do not focus on behavior. Behavior naturally changes when we get to the heart of the issue that is fueling the behavior. So we can very easily treat clients externally as puppets, but they're people. And that kind of treatment, although we may see success and be like, oh, they gained weight, oh, they lost weight, oh, but it doesn't last. So we don't do that kind of work here. The kind of work we do here is that all the work we do, this applies to everything we do. And it's a foundational principle. And if you apply it to your work, it will significantly increase your success rate with clients. So what I want you to understand is that as we're going through this, we're going to look at collaborating with other professionals and collateral contacts. There's nutritionists, there's day treatment programs, there's inpatient programs, there's parents, there's family, there's significant others. And what I really want you to understand is that most people, even medical professionals who are seen as specialists in regard to treating eating disorders, many, many, many do not understand the heart of full recovery. Because if you hear anyone pushing, focusing, demanding, threatening hospitalization to people who are suffering with an eating disorder, if you see that as the primary goal in regard to your client, it will hurt them tremendously. So what I want you to understand is this. I'm going to teach you something called psychocybernetics, and I want you to consider a thermostat. Each of us have a set point in our thinking, the beliefs we have stored in our emotions, and the beliefs we've stored in our body. Our body is an operating system, and it is basically a record of memory. And if you understand what your set point is, like a thermostat set at a certain number, that it's in our thinking, it's in our beliefs, and it's stored in our body and in our emotions. We will consistently return to the temperature that is set no matter what, regardless of our external environment and our attempts to manipulate it for change. So this doesn't mean that we do not have behavioral shifts that will support recovery, but if done in isolation, the results can't last because the internal system hasn't changed. And what we do is if you understand cybernetics and you understand that we have a baseline of belief systems that are unconscious, and it's 95% of the influence of our behaviors. And then we have our neurological makeup, which was developed during the years approximately between 0 and 7 years old, when we are in a theta brainwave in a hypnotic state. So there is so much that is stored and programmed, and we also become addicted to the feelings that we feel the most. And when we make an attempt to change behaviorally without shifting and changing those set points, what ends up happening is our bodies will go into withdrawal, our thinking, our emotional state, and we'll have a rebound effect where we will go back to old behavior, possibly even stronger than before. So it is an art to work collaboratively with these outside systems, medical doctors, treatment programs for eating disorders, family members. The reason being is that most people do not understand their own inner world. And they definitely don't understand the world of someone who's suffering with any body image, dysmorphia, any kind of eating problems. Many people are just like, just eat, just don't eat. You look fine. Somebody with an eating disorder, with a body image problem, one of the largest pains that they experience is that they have no idea what they look like. So it is that's just one small element of the inner world of a person with an eating disorder. So as I was saying, it's an art. We're going to be working collaboratively with these outside systems. And the most obvious reason that these professionals don't understand is because they don't understand that they have their own inner world and their own set points. The most important thing in dealing with any child or adolescent, regardless of the issue, is to educate the parent. Because without the parent understanding that, no, we're not going to be forcing food intake, or no, we're not going to be enforcing a diet. We're not going to collaborate with them in that way. Remembering that the parent is afraid and exerting this pressure on the kids on what feels like something they can control. So parents feel very, especially with somebody with anorexia or, really any of the disorders, think about as a parent who is concerned about external appearances, which, people are, and all of us have to some degree are. Think about this parent looking at their child not eating and feeling like they're failing their child. Like, what am I doing wrong? I got to make them eat. And believe me, doctors will tell them that, and they will take kids in and they'll put them on a scale when the kid's terrified and will be so impacted by having to see their weight, by having to be weighed and measured, by having to be forced to eat, that it has a completely opposite effect. And it causes more of the child to dig in and to fight food and to feel alone and isolated. And that's actually much more dangerous. So we want to remember the kindness to the parent. The parent is afraid. They're also experiencing pressure from outside systems. This child has to eat, or we have to send them to a hospital. Well, how do I have an alternative to that I'm going to teach you guys, that we can maintain safety with a child, an adolescent, an adult in a different way. so they can have external testing done medically while still working on the internal problem with us. Our job is, all eating disorders and all disorders will return if the person hasn't changed their thermostat, as I was just saying. So our job is to let them know it is there and to help them reset it. And we also need to let the parents know and develop a sense of trust with the parents. One of the reasons why I was able to gain trust with parents is because I'm going to stand up, guys. One of the reasons is because I am able to tell them that I myself have recovered from an eating disorder. So, because I can tell them that, and I can say to them, as a person who understands eating disorders, they develop a trust with me. So, what I hope for is that anyone who works with people, kids, parents, whatever, who are addressing eating disorders, that you find a way as much as you can to really deeply understand what it is like to be in the body, the mind, the heart, the feelings of someone with an eating disorder. It is not, it's to people who haven't experienced it, it's kind of weird. Just be honest. We're weirdos. But what is really cool about it is that it's not cool in a good way, but we have a disordered eating society. We also have a body dysmorphic society, but not in the extremes that you will experience with someone with these kinds of disorders. So there will be a way for you to tap into your own insecurities in your body because we all have different things like that and be able to tap in and say maybe I could not magnetize, I could magnify this feeling that I have by a billion. What would it be like, if you know that there's one body part that you don't like? What would it be like if you said, suppose this feeling that I have about this body part was something I thought about every day, all day, and I woke up thinking about it. Suppose my guilt that I feel about eating that piece of cake or I don't know, a carb, that was magnified, that it became something that eclipsed all the other things around you, that you couldn't concentrate and you couldn't be around people and you couldn't even be around yourself because all you saw was guilt and all you felt was utter shame. So at the core of most eating disorders is this incredible shame. And they isolate, they need control. And they live with one of the worst abusers you could ever come across in your life. So to any degree that you hear yourself beating yourself up, imagine having someone with you 24 hours a day that commented on everything you did, that made you check your body every moment, that told you heinous things about yourself, and that was consistently 24 hours a day watching what you consumed, how you consumed, if you're hungry, if you're thin, if you're fat, all day long, and just abused you. Imagine going to a party and there's a buffet line and you don't even want to be there. You feel ashamed to even go up and have anything. Yet you feel like if you have anything, you'll eat everything. Feeling like you have to hide food, you have to pretend, or you have to not eat at all. Now, these are just some of the feelings, but imagine that in a magnified way, 24 hours a day, you wake up with the thought. You wake up wondering what your body size is. You feel uncomfortable when another person is looks fantastic, is very thin. You feel uncomfortable if somebody's very overweight. You feel uncomfortable to even mention anything about your appearance because you feel then people will notice what you look like. You have to remember, I'm giving just little bits and pieces of this. So understand that as a person, if you haven't had an eating disorder, do everything you can internally to fully just try it on, imagine it. This is empathy at its finest, and being able to understand that you can't mention a body size to them. You can't mention a diet. You cannot mention to a client that you're serving that you know, say, hey, what size do you want to be? What's your dream size? We use terms like, what is it that hurts? And where are you trying? Like, we don't tell them, no, you're thin, you look fine. Never. You ask them, hey, what is it that you're searching for? What is it that you feel would meet the need in your heart? Is it a certain size? Like you never land on an image. Is there a certain size that feels somehow like it would feel better? We don't correct them before we understand them. This is very important, and we teach the parents the same thing. We don't correct and just say, you have to eat, you're gonna die, blah, blah, blah. We say, what is it about? What is it about eating? And is there certain kinds of eating that feel worse than others? Could you explain to me what's happening inside? And this is the kind of, and you allow them to share. We don't change them before we understand them. So I'm going to go back to the main thing to remember when working with a client is that you want to give them hope. What I was just explaining is that I represent as someone who has recovered for a very long time. I represent hope. So I want you to represent hope. You can always use me in your sessions and say the owner and founder of Lager Counseling Services had a debilitating eating disorder, and she was hospitalized for 28 days with this horrible experience, and she is completely recovered and happy and healthy and strong. Like, you can use me as evidence for recovery. So I'm just giving you that permission. You don't have to keep this a secret. So the thing is, we're giving them hope. And then we tell them, you can recover. So I can tell them you can recover because I have. So if you have not been in that situation and haven't recovered, then what you can say is, I have seen evidence of people who have completely recovered. But the one thing I know about people who are struggling in this way is that it just feels like you will never recover. And that's true. So I'm telling you, there's certain things you can say, like people with eating disorders believe that they will never, ever, ever get better. And they hide it. And it's a very, very big, big secret. So the next thing is we want to let them know that they can, that they will feel differently, that eating disorders are the most complex thing in that we need food to live, and that the recovery process, if done right, done in the right way, will serve to heal all areas of their life. That if they just focus on the behavior, just eating or not eating, losing or gaining weight, they are only recovering for 1/5 of the process. Explaining that at first they will never believe they will ever get better. Tell them that it is normal to believe they'll never get better and not to buy the lie. I'm going to stop here. We're going to begin another video in regard to like the areas in which to recover.